Yay! Okay, so today I have Becky Mollenkamp here for Camp for Dirty Girls. I guess it's not season 2. It's the second iteration. I had it written down. Camp for Dirty Girls, Volume 2. That's what it's called. And we're going to talk about biz friends, i.e. business friends, and how and why to make them. And I'm supposed to introduce myself, and then I'll ask Becky about who she is and what she does. So I'm Mahlena-Rae Johnson with Nerdy Girls with Mahlena-Rae Johnson. That's me. And I went to Loyola Marymount University for film school. I went to University of Southern California for business school, and where I got my MBA in marketing, entertainment, and entrepreneurship. And for the past 10 years after business school, I've been doing hundreds of informational interviews and coffee chats and going to hundreds of, what are they called? Networking events and conferences and meeting thousands of people. So I am excited to help you, fellow nerdy girls, connect, communicate, and collaborate, and ideally build the network that you want. So now let's go to Becky. Welcome. And who are you and what do you do?
First of all, thank you for having me do this. I am Becky Mollenkamp, and I'm a mentor for women entrepreneurs. I help with mindset and tactical struggles of running your own business. And I don't think I'm a nerd, but I think I'm a dork. So I once saw a Venn diagram that showed like the difference between a nerd, a dork, and a geek. And then like where they all overlap was like dweeb maybe. But anyway, I think I'm more of a dork. I don't know.
How so?
I feel like you have to be super smart to be a nerd. And I think I'm intelligent, but I don't know if I'm super smart. So anyway, who knows? I'm not sure what the correct definition of a nerd is, but I'm excited to be here and do this. Oh, well, my background, I'm a journalist by training. And so I have 2 degrees in journalism. I worked for newspapers, I worked for magazines, but I have been self-employed since 2005. And started doing just freelance writing for magazines, and then started doing corporate work. And now I do a lot more work directly with women entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think Becky is super smart because she has developed a great business that is not only generating revenue for Becky, but also having a big impact on the people who follow her and participate in her groups.
Well, that's very nice to hear, because that's really what it's about for me. I love community, so talking about biz friends or best friends makes total sense for me, because I really like community is my jam.
Yay! Well, let's start with how you started making biz friends.
So I, like many people, decided to be my own boss because I wanted to work in my pajamas. And I did that for a long time. And by the way, I started and I'm so sorry if it's noisy because I'm in a coffee house because I currently don't have a home office for a long reason. So I started my business like pre-social media, basically in 2005. I mean, I don't know that Facebook was even around and LinkedIn was around, but there wasn't a lot in the way of social media. So I started my business and it was okay. I loved it. I loved working in my pajamas until a couple years in, and I was like talking to the dogs and kind of expecting that they would start to talk back to me, and realized like this isn't healthy. I need to have some adult conversations, because my spouse at the time traveled a lot, was not home much. And so I could literally go days without saying words out loud unless I talked to my dogs. And so I had to find community. Like it became imperative for my mental well-being that I get out and network and meet people. And so I started with in-person networking because social media didn't exist. That wasn't a thing. Maybe MySpace had barely been around, but I wasn't really a big user. And so I started going to like Chamber of Commerce networking kind of events. And that was definitely not like my jam, because I wanted to work in pajamas, and I was going to these events where everyone was in suits. And it was kind of fun to put on nice clothes, but it got old, and it was a lot of old white dudes, and it just was not just wasn't a good fit. So then I found a women's organization, so National Association of Women Business Owners, NABO. It's a huge national organization for women business owners. And I joined that and I got pretty involved. I became like a secretary there. I went to the national conference. And I liked it, but even there, so it was not all old white dudes, but it was a lot of old white women in suits. So it was slightly better, but not like, still not really the right fit for me. But at least it got me out of the house and talking to people. And then this lovely thing called social media came around, and I found, like, I was on Facebook, but that really was about friends and family. Wasn't a business application really at the time, but I found Twitter and I fell in love with Twitter, like big time. And I got super active on Twitter and really in my local community. I was in Des Moines, Iowa at the time, and I met so many people, business and personal. And like some of my very best friends today are still people that I met through Twitter. And I still talk with a lot of the business folks that I met through Twitter back in 2009, whenever that was, that I got really involved. And so then that slowly evolved into like, you know, now where I spend more of my time, which is Facebook and Facebook groups. And I have my own Facebook group and a paid membership. And I really love community in that way. And I do a lot of virtual coffee chats now. And actually now don't do very much in person because, as you may be able to see today, like even when I go out to a coffee shop, I'm still basically in pajamas. And so I'm just not real good at the in-person thing because I don't like to get dressed.
Okay, so it seems like a lot of the interaction with people is getting to Becky's comfort level of not getting dressed up.
Very much so. I guess I've gotten to that place in my life where it's like, if it's not enjoyable to me, why am I doing it? And I think, you know, I don't know what nerdy girls are like, but I can say that if you don't enjoy it, you shouldn't be doing it. Like, I think we feel this pressure that we're supposed to network in a certain way, do our business in a certain way, make friends in a certain way, all these things. And it's just like, maybe it's age. But so finally you reach a point where it's like, why am I doing this thing if it doesn't feel right? Because sure, I was getting out networking, but I wasn't meeting the kinds of people I really would want to hang out with. So what was the point, you know, just to get out of the house? I mean, that's good, but it wasn't really helping me personally or my business professionally. And so for me, I want to work with other people who are like, yeah, we can be smart and productive and talented and still be in comfortable clothes. Like, that's okay, you know? And guess what? You don't have to put a face full of makeup on unless you feel like it. And if you do, that's great. But also if you don't, I still know that you're a good person. And like, that's the kind of people I want to associate with. And so by going and networking in places that didn't feel right to me, I wasn't meeting those people. So now networking the way that feels comfortable to me tends to get me meeting the kinds of people that I feel comfortable with.
Mm-hmm. Well, one, there are still people who put on their face of makeup for the videos. And also, let's see, and the nerdy girls who, I don't know exactly who my audience is yet, but it's mostly people who find me entertaining, so they don't have a specific like background, but it's okay to be to align yourself with them. There's some gentlemen too, which is odd.
I think that's good for them. Listen, I am one of those people because I find you entertaining, and I don't know that I'm a nerd, but maybe I am. And I would never judge somebody for wearing makeup. I put makeup on to go live sometimes. Today, I failed to put on makeup, and that's also okay. So I just really think when it comes to networking and making business friends, it should be about what feels right and comfortable to you. And if it doesn't, then it's not the right activity for you. For some people, social media marketing or social media networking is not the right activity. They need that in-person piece, and that's great. You just have to find what works for you.
So where are the main places that work for you now to find new business friends or to develop your relationships with existing business friends?
So Facebook is definitely the biggest thing for me right now. I'm on Instagram. I don't get it as a social network. I know people meet people, like I've heard of people getting married after meeting on Instagram. So there's a thing, that's a thing. Like, it is social, but I don't get it. I haven't found a way to make that. It's because it's just not comfortable for me. It doesn't lend itself to the kind of conversations I like to have. I loved Twitter, but now Twitter has gotten so automated that it feels like there's not really any live engagement happening there much anymore. And so really for me, it's where Facebook groups, because what I like about Facebook groups is you can get really specific about who the audience is. So you're with like-minded individuals, so it's not like all of Twitter, and you can go to Twitter chats, I guess, and Instagram can be, for me, very hard to find people, and it seems like there's a lot of like follow, unfollow stuff happening that's just icky. So Facebook, for me, I can get into groups that I know are the right kinds of people that I want to have conversations with and start those conversations there. And so for me, that's definitely the place that works best. LinkedIn sometimes can be useful for me. I have a course on LinkedIn. I like it for the professional thing, but it's definitely more of the professional relationship place where I would go, not so much if I'm looking for a biz bestie.
Okay. So I also took Becky's course on LinkedIn and I enjoyed it. I've been on LinkedIn for a while and I had not been using it as much, but taking the course helped me remember that there's a lot of stuff that you can put out there to attract the people that you like. And it also made the process a lot simpler than just trying to like figure out what to do by just going on the site, because LinkedIn is not, they're trying to teach people, but it's not as straightforward as Becky's course was.
Well, that's nice to hear. I appreciate it. And, I think it makes a lot of sense for business networking. But when you're really talking specifically more around trying to find biz besties, those kinds of people that can support you, be there as sounding boards, who get what you do, who are more like a friend than somebody who you want to hire you. For me, that tends to work best in Facebook. I know a lot of people, though, who find that in Instagram, too. So, again, and people who find it in real life. So you just have to find the thing that feels right for you. For me, it's definitely Facebook groups.
What sorts of real life activities do you do to interact with people either in your industry or who are also entrepreneurs?
Not enough is the answer. I have a 2-year-old, and so a bulk of my time, like when I'm working, because I get a limited amount of work time. I don't have 40 hours of daycare. My mom watches my son, so I have a limited amount of daycare, childcare. So when I am in work mode, I try to work. I do coffee chats during that time too, though. So there is that, but mostly I'm working, even if I am like today in a coffee shop where there are humans around. Otherwise, I'm with my family primarily. I used to have get-togethers, which I really should restart. I was doing them after he was born. I just haven't in a while. Where I have a list of women business owners in St. Louis. That's probably 30 or 40 people, and we would get together. Maybe 10, 15 of us would show up each meeting. We were meeting about once a month at coffee shops, and that was nice. And I probably should get back to that. I also, until recently, had an in-person mastermind. So it was right here in St. Louis, and we would meet at a coffee shop every single week, and there were 5 of us. That was nice because it was all women business owners and it was in person, but it kind of came to the end of its run. We'd been together 2.5 years, which is a really long time for a mastermind. So that recently ended, and I have online ones, but I do kind of miss that in-person piece. So the answer is I don't do enough in person, and I probably should be doing more.
Okay. Well, what about retreats and conferences? What have been your experiences with those recently?
So the first conference I ever went to was that NABO National Conference, the first conference for entrepreneurs. I went to conferences back in my old life as a journalist, worked as a magazine editor. But on my own, that NABO conference was the first one, and it was huge and overwhelming. It was enormous, but really interesting. And I actually still have some connections that I met. I mean, that was probably 15 years ago now or something. So like, it's amazing how long those connections can really last in your career. But now, more recently, I haven't done much since I had my son, but I did go to my first retreat in February in New York City. It was really small. There were like 12 of us, all women business owners from a Facebook group that I'm in, where it's moms who own businesses. So we had a real life in-person mastermind retreat in New York. And that was really interesting. It was interesting in that I learned a lot about myself, but it was really hard emotionally being there. It was difficult being away from my son more than I realized. I also didn't connect with the women the way I had hoped. So it created a whole bunch of like weird feelings about like, maybe I'm not very good at making friends and all sorts of things. But I did learn a lot, and personally and professionally. So it was really good. And I'm hosting my first retreat next month, like in 3 weeks, here in St. Louis for 10 or so businesswomen from my Facebook group. And so I'm really excited about that. And we'll be doing another one in October. And I really like, I don't know, the conference thing is interesting, But for me, it can be a bit overwhelming because there's just, a lot of them have hundreds and then like thousands of people. If I don't go with someone I know, I can get a little overwhelmed and intimidated. It's nice. I like doing that kind of thing where there's somebody I'm there with and we can go to the things together and I have somebody I can talk to. I'm pretty extroverted and can go up and meet people, but I don't know, those big overwhelming situations can feel a little noisy and like you feel small, and it's nice to have somebody to talk to. So I don't go to those as much. Plus they're super expensive. I really like the retreat thing where it's more intimate and you can really get to know people, and I can be in my pajamas and don't have to dress up. It all comes back to pajamas, Mahlena.
Oh, okay. I like pajamas. I'm wearing pajama bottoms today. So I like that you mentioned the different experiences that you've had at retreats and conferences, and the acknowledgement that sometimes conferences can be overwhelming if there's hundreds or thousands of people, especially if you just know one person. And also not just the financial investment, but the time that you spend there can be a lot because it's a change in your life, as well as the emotional investment, because often what the underlying promise of conferences, especially for women, can be that you are going to go there with people like you and that you'll be able to connect with those people because you're all like-minded in the same industry or the same business. And that doesn't always necessarily happen because it just doesn't necessarily happen that just because you have certain things in common that you'll also be able to connect.
Right. And it's also like you're talking about time, like the travel piece is sometimes overwhelming to me. There's just a lot there. And a lot of the conferences, I don't know, I just probably haven't found the right fit. I would love to find a good conference that makes sense. But for me, it's like, I don't really want to go to something about mentoring and coaching. And then I don't know, some of the conferences are a little too woo for me. I think that's great for who they're right for. They're not right for me. Then some of them are a little too practical, just about like very specific around like email marketing. And that's too specific for me. So it's hard to find the right kind of fit. But with like a retreat, it tends to be something that's a little more like, it's individualized. And so for me, that makes more sense. But then there would be other people for whom the idea of going to a retreat with just like 8 other people they would hate that because it would be too intimate and they would rather have all that noise and all the activities. So yeah, you definitely have to find the thing that's the right fit for you.
That is true. That's I guess that is part of the reason that I want to make a Camp for Nerdy Girls into a conference that I was thinking I was going to do this year, but maybe not considering all the other projects I have. But the parts that I want to make sure are addressed in whatever conference I create are that you get something out of it, not just so it's not just practical information, which a lot of conferences are focused on, like how to sell more toys or this is what we're doing in Beans this year, but also making sure that the women who attend the conference feel like they're in a safe place and that they are able to not just go there to make friends, but also go there to make partners who can collaborate. So it's not necessarily just we're going to be best friends forever, but I have this idea for a project. Let's come together and do it. And then that's done. And then maybe we can work together in the future.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. And you're in LA, I believe. So that always sounds like a fun place to go to a conference. So I'll try to be there if it happens.
It is definitely a warm place and big. Let's see. Yes, the benefits of making biz friends and networking. So what are the main benefits that you have found through connecting with other people in business through networking?
One, sanity. So I'm not talking to the dogs as much anymore. So that's really good. I really think it depends on the kind of relationship, but I think just having somebody who gets it, because like we love our spouses, but if they're not entrepreneurs, they don't always understand. They try to, but they can't quite understand why it's devastating when someone, you're like, oh my God, I lost 10 email subscribers today. And they're probably like, who cares? Like, they just don't get that. So having other people that are like in a similar stage of business or have been there and understand those things can be really good, just because it validates your feelings, and having somebody that you can talk to that gets it is really reassuring. comforting. So I really like that. I also think that it can be really nice to have the kind of people that are able to hold you accountable. So that sometimes can be a coach, but it can also be a biz bestie that you guys have an arrangement once a week. You're checking in and making sure you're doing the things you say you're going to do. I think it's also great to have other people who, again, kind of get it, but maybe are complementary kind of professions where you can collaborate, which I think can be really great. I love collaborations. I love doing things like this that make sense. And also that you can bounce ideas off of, so that you have people that you can turn to and say, here's this thing I'm thinking, because it's really easy when you are working for yourself and by yourself to get really caught up in your head, and that can stall you out. It can kind of do one of two things. It can either stall you because you just are feeling a little paralyzed and unsure because you're alone. You don't know, is this thing right? Should I do this? And you don't have anyone to talk to about it. And so you get paralyzed and don't act. Or the opposite thing that can happen, which is like, you just do everything because you don't have anyone kind of keeping you in check, or anyone to run an idea by and say, is this a good idea? And so a lot of times we think all of our ideas are the best ideas. And so if you don't have that community to talk to about things, it can kind of either keep you stuck in place, or it can get you spinning all over the place and doing things that maybe you shouldn't be. So I love having people that you can talk to, bounce ideas off of, get input. That stuff's all really important if you want to really advance in your career. No man is an island, and trying to do this thing as an island is tough. It's really tough. And I think you might shoot yourself in the foot if you don't have that support system in place.
Well, what advice do you have for other women entrepreneurs, or other women who may not be entrepreneurs, but they are in their careers and they want to get more involved with networking and making the connections in their industry that would be helpful to them as they go along their career?
Well, first of all, like I said, find the thing that feels right to you, that's a good fit for you. Just because everyone else is using Facebook groups, if you don't love them, don't do it. Like, you need to find this thing that works. If it's in person, you want to do it, kick it old school or go in person, like, that's okay. You got to find the thing that's right for you. The other thing I would say is, I'm not super introverted, but I do know that some people are very introverted, and the idea of reaching out to people can be scary. And sometimes you have to step outside that comfort zone. So while I want you to do things that feel comfortable and right for you, know whether it's because you have to sort of find that balance of figuring out, am I not doing this thing because it's a little bit uncomfortable, or because it's just really not who I am and it's not the right fit. If it's just a little uncomfortable, sometimes you do have to be willing to step outside that comfort zone, do something that's a little bit scary, and approach somebody. And I promise you, a lot of times the only reason someone else isn't approaching you is because they're scared, right? And so if you can be the one to sort of let your palms get a little sweaty, get that, nervous thing in your throat, and just do it anyway, it can be so beneficial. But just sitting around waiting for people to reach out to you may leave you sitting alone for a long time. So sometimes you do have to take that risk and send that message to somebody, send them the email, and just say, hey, would you be willing to have a coffee chat? Would you be willing to talk? And if you're not comfortable being on camera, just do it by phone. Find a way that's comfortable, but do it, even if it is a little scary, because it really does pay off. But just waiting around for somebody else to reach out to you just because you have a scheduling link on your website and you just put it up, they don't necessarily come. You actually do have to start having conversations with people. And sometimes you have to be the one to take that risk. It's kind of like when you're single and dating. If you stay at home every Friday and Saturday night and don't talk to anyone, you're probably not going to find Mr. or Mrs. Right, because they're not just sitting outside your door waiting to pounce on you, right? You have to go out. You either have to put yourself onto Match.com, or go to the bar, or go to the gym, wherever you meet people. You have to be willing to kind of put yourself out there if you're really serious about meeting somebody. It's the same thing with networking.
I hope that they're not sitting outside your door.
And if they are, they're probably not. If they're sitting outside your door waiting for you, you might call the cops, because they're probably not Mr. or Mrs. Right.
Well, as I like to let people know, I have an impossible goal of becoming a billionaire mom, only 1 billion to go. And I am developing my network and building and growing so that I can have the people around me to help me reach that level. So what is an impossible goal that Becky has that she needs her network to help her achieve?
Well, I will first argue with you with this idea of an impossible goal, because nothing is impossible. well, some things are impossible, but these goals, let's not set things that are impossible. It's a possible goal. So first you have to believe it, really, for it to even possibly be truth. You have to believe it. So quit calling it your impossible goal. Call it your big scary goal. Call it your outlandish goal, but don't call it impossible.
Well, it's impossible to do it by myself. That's what the impossible part is.
There you go. Well, that is true, because no person is an island. So my big scary goal that I will need other people to help support me in is I would love to be the next to Oprah Winfrey. How about that? There's a big, scary, giant goal. Maybe not exactly Oprah, but
Becky.
That's who it will be. I would like to just build that kind of audience and help as many people as possible. The older I get, because I'm getting to be an old lady now, the more I see the wisdom in Oprah's ways and really do value mindset and understand how important our brains are in everything, just the way we talk and the way we think and the way we act. And I want to help more and more people kind of conquer some of those hurdles, the self limitations that are holding us back, and help people push through those and do that in the biggest kind of way that I can. And so, I have a podcast that is going to be coming out, which is very exciting. Still kind of a secret project, but not super secret because I just mentioned it. And I see that potentially becoming a book and maybe much more. And so I just want to continue the things that get me jazzed in life are community. I love it. And creating content that helps people break through what they self-perceived barriers. That's the kind of stuff I love to do. So I just want to keep doing it in the biggest possible way.
Okay. Well, what is your big project for this year that we can see and help you with?
Well, the big project coming up is the podcast, but you can't see or help me with that quite yet because it's not quite ready to talk fully about. But know that it's coming, and if you're interested soon, there will be ways to get on the wait list or get on the list so that I can tell you as soon as the first episode drops, as the kids say. What are my other big projects? Well, the other big thing I'll be launching in the fall is something called Boss Status. That's going to be a course. It's kind of all about stepping into that role of being the boss and CEO of your business, which is a lot of mindset stuff. And so that will be coming out this fall. But right now, LinkedIn, if you're interested in that, I've got a course about that. And I have a course about money mindset that I also really love because it's one of those things that kind of helps you break through some of those self-perceived barriers of like, why can't you make more money, And so I really also enjoy that. That's available. So if you want to go to my website, BeckyMollenkamp.com, you can find out about those things. And then there's a membership community where you can join me and Mahlena and a bunch of other cool women where we do all kinds of cool things with master classes and co-working and, community and helping each other out.
And where can you find that?
I think you can also find that at BeckyMollenkamp.com. Maybe, I don't know. Honestly, the best place to go is shop.BeckyMollenkamp.com. So shop.BeckyMollenkamp.com. That's where you can actually immediately find the information about the things that I have if you want to give me money and where you can go and buy.
Okay, super. Well, I will put those links in the comments and such so that everyone can go to BeckyMollenkamp.com and learn more about Becky, even more than she shared in this lovely interview. So those are all the questions I have, and I'm glad that Becky could join me today and share all of her experience and wisdom with us and tell us about how networking has benefited her. It clearly has, because she's built such a great community and helped lots of people. I guess throughout the world now, there's people in different countries that are in Becky's groups. So that's super. So thank you so much for joining me, Becky.
Don't stop yet because I want to say something nice to you before you go, which
okay.
She's like, bring it on. Thank you for being you and for doing these kinds of things and for always making people feel very welcome, because I know that you do, because you are effervescent. If ever there was a person who defined that word for me, it would be you. You have such a great personality and are so fun and easy to talk to, and you make people feel good. And those are amazing qualities that not everyone has, I can assure you. So thank you for being you and doing these things. I really appreciate it. And for being part of some of my communities and helping make others feel welcome.
You are welcome for that. I like helping people feel welcome because I always have, but it's better than making people feel poopy.
Yes, but some people don't seem to get that, Mahlena. There are plenty of people who make people feel poopy. So thank you for not being one of them.
Yeah, I just figure that everyone should present their best selves and understand that some people have off days and they're feeling bummy. But if we're presenting ourselves as entrepreneurs who want people to join their communities and do stuff, that's the best way to go about it. And I also get enough naps, or I try to, so that I can present a nice face to the world, yet acknowledge that self-care is important, because not everybody has to be on all the time.
Yeah, I fail at self-care, and so that's inspirational. And also it's funny because you are a glass half full kind of person, which I appreciate, because I was talking about coffee chats with you and I said sometimes people are duds, and you were like, well, maybe they just had a bad day. So
Yeah.
you're a good person. I'm trying to be a better person like that, so I appreciate that about you.
Well, you are a good person, and Becky sometimes needs help remembering that, because she does so much but doesn't really. It's sometimes she needs a mirror.
That is true. That is true. And so thank you for being that for me. Thank you very much for having me.
You are welcome. And bye-bye, recording people. But Becky and I will talk for a moment after the recording's done. And thank you all for watching.